Hello, I'm continuing my discussion on Men Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen. And in this video, we are talking about Chapter 5, Establishing the Establishment. Let me begin by quoting what Allen says on page 89. He writes, "Without American inclusion, there could be no meaningful world government." Right? And this, of course, is talking about the League of Nations, Wilson's idea to make the United States, or help the United States join the League of Nations to promote peace, and of course how the United States refused to join. The Congress refused to ratify the treaty. So what we have now is conversation about, and this chapter is particularly about the creation of the CFR, the Council of Foreign Relations. And so I don't want to talk too much about the Council of Foreign Relations because it's actually not an area of which I am that aware. I mean, I know what the Council of Foreign Relations is, to a certain extent its stated motivations, but at the same time I'm not aware necessarily of the conspiratorial elements that Allen wishes to attribute to the Council of Foreign Relations. I'm not saying that they're not true or not, but I personally don't know enough about the issue to commentate extensively on the issue. So let me just pick out some of the quotes from this chapter that I felt were the most interesting or the most informative. There's a quote on page 95 that I thought was particularly interesting. It starts on the bottom of page 94, in fact. "Although the formal membership of the Council of Foreign Relations is composed of close to 1,500 of the most elite names in the world of government, law, labor, business, finance, communications, the Foundation, and the Academy, and despite the fact that it has staffed almost every key position of every administration since those of FDR, it is doubtful that 1 American in 1,000 so much as recognizes the Council's name, or that 1 in 10,000 can relate anything at all about its structure or purpose." Well, yeah, I mean, all I know is a little bit about the Council of Foreign Relations. It's not much. I know that, of course, I've heard the name quite a bit in some of the readings I've had, but I'm not nearly as aware of it as I should be, probably. And so, I mean, of course, that's another reason why, think about the news today in America, we don't hear about the Council of Foreign Relations on Fox News or CNN, because, of course, that's not a topic that's worthy of conversation, right? Why it isn't is a debatable issue. You could argue two things. You could argue that it's because there's a power structure that doesn't want you hearing about the Council of Foreign Relations, doesn't want you hearing about the Bilderberg Group, doesn't want you learning about the Royal Institute for International Affairs, because they're controlling the world, or part of the control structure of controlling the world, and therefore it wouldn't be acceptable for the sheep of the world to understand their power and their influence. That's one view. The other view is a little bit less, is more financially motivated, to the sense of saying that most people in America are so stupid that they don't want to hear about the Council of Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, or the Royal Institute of International Affairs, and therefore to present information about these groups would be seen as well, it would repel viewers. It would cost a lot of money to engage in real journalistic scholarship on these issues, and it would repel viewers because those viewers prefer to hear things that are very easy to understand, that make them feel like they're really brilliant and really intelligent. And when they hear something that they really have no idea about, it makes them feel stupid, so they want to turn the station to something that makes them feel intelligent. I understand that argument as well. But I think it's the first argument. I think the Council of Foreign Relations and the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the Bilderberg Group, other powerful internationalist institutions, I feel they have incredible power in this world. It's what I sense to be true. I don't know it to be true for absolute fact, but it seems likely to me it is true. I see no reason to believe why it's such a conspiracy theory when we don't even have a conversation on the issue. We can't even have an intellectual debate about whether it is powerful or not. That in itself suggests to me that there could be some issue related to it. Right. On page 96, though, I will quote Allen again: "The policies promoted by the CFR in the field of defense and international relations become with a regularity which defies the laws of chance the official policy of the United States government." So in that case, the argument would be that the Council of Foreign Relations wanted to go into Iraq and Afghanistan, wants to go into Libya. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. Again, we don't hear it on the U.S. news media, and I have not read books on the issue. That it was the Council of Foreign Relations, or wasn't the Council of Foreign Relations, who set the policy toward going into Iraq. I do know, based on certain documentaries I've read, at least I strongly believe this is the case, certain documentaries have claimed it's the case, that Donald Rumsfeld, from the moment that September 11th happened, wanted to link the attacks on September 11th to Iraq, right? And as well as many other neoconservatives in the administration. But anyway, that being said, I don't know much more about the issue than that. On page 97, Allen claims that the Council on Foreign Relations was instrumental in the creation of the United Nations. On page 100, there's this interesting graph interesting graphic chart, in fact, about how the powerful business and banking interests got together to consolidate power amongst themselves, with the CFR in the middle of the conspiratorial activity. Right, because the CFR is in the very middle. Then there's, of course, around it like the Schiff, Warburg, Vanderlip, Rockefeller, Barish, Morgan banking arm. There's the Rothschild Minor, Round Table, Royal Institute of International Affairs into the CFR. There's Standard Oil, IBM, Xerox, Eastman, Kodak, Pan American, Firestone, U.S. Steel, other big corporations into the CFR. Then there's like Hublot, Lazard, I don't even know, Lazard Frere, I don't know if that's what it's called, Dillon Reed, Lehman Brothers, Goldman Sachs, Chase Morgan, right? Or Chase Manhattan and Morgan Guarantee. I mean, obviously some of these companies aren't even in business anymore, but this idea that they're a part of it, as well as the Rand Institute, the Hudson Institute, the Fund for Republic, the Brookings Institute, and so forth, they're another arm of the CFR. Again, I don't know how much of this is true. That's what the graph on page 100 says. Again, it's not my area of specialty, but it seems very interesting. Allen's argument seems interesting, and I have not seen a lot of commentary absolutely debunking what Allen has written. I've even read a lot of Amazon.com reviews on this book, and there's not a whole lot of reviews that have said anything really penetrating against Allen. Of course, some have pointed out some perspective issues that Allen could have looked at an issue from a different perspective, and I agree with that. But at the same time, Allen, just because Allen is maybe fails to see something from one given perspective, doesn't mean that all of his arguments in the entire book are false, right? Page 103, Allen notes that liberals and conservatives admit that Kissinger was by far the most important man in the Nixon administration, and of course Kissinger was CFR. On page 104, he starts talking about the Bilderberg Group, and this is of course back when the Bilderberg Group was not well recognized. I mean, today there's more admission that the Bilderberg Group exists. I mean, Sean Hannity tried to deny it a few years ago. Now he's forced to come out and admit that it was true, but of course he downplays it and doesn't basically say anything about what it is. But Hillary Clinton, in another YouTube video that's available, denies the existence of Bilderberg, even though her husband attended it. And in fact, her husband, in another conversation, actually admitted to attending Bilderberg and talking about it. He claimed in that video, of course, that it was not about U.S. policy; it was about European trade issues. But the fact that Hillary Clinton, who would become later Secretary of State, did not even claim not to even know that Bilderberg existed seems to me to be suspicious, as Sean Hannity's claim that he didn't know. If I was any kind of journalist, even if I thought it was a conspiratorial idea, at least I would go out and research it a little bit, right? Try to figure out what the conspiracy is, because just because I'm an interesting person or a person that wants to figure out what the conspiracies are. I don't believe all conspiracies by any means. Some conspiracies are absolutely absurd in my view, but I still try to go out and research them and understand what people claim about them. So the fact that Hannity doesn't do that, I think, suggests to me that Hannity knows about Bilderberg, knew about Bilderberg years ago. He doesn't want to admit anything about it. He wants to believe that the government is actually run by the Congress, even though Congress doesn't write the laws. They just let the law, they obtain laws from lobbyists and then submit the laws then to be considered and go through different committees, and some corporations are better at manipulating the laws through the committees in such a way that they get passed. But anyway, nobody wants to admit that. Certainly Hannity doesn't want to admit that. He wants to believe what he wants to believe about a fundamentally good, free America. Page 106 again, I want to read Allen saying that those who had heard to the accidental theory of history will claim that it is sheer coincidence that every single one of those names as past and present members of the Bilderberg Steering Committee is or was a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. And of course, then Allen notes as well on page 108 that Bilderberg meetings are secret. News media are not even allowed to acknowledge their existence, which was in fact true up to very recent time. The mainstream media would not even acknowledge that Bilderberg meetings existed. Right. Now, of course, today Bilderberg meetings do receive coverage. It's very minimal coverage, and the coverage is often presented as though those meetings are just a bunch of wealthy people getting together to have a good time, that these meetings in no way could possibly influence world events, and of course there's a lot of sarcasm about, do you believe that they're planning the plan for the world at Bilderberg and all that. I don't think it's quite that advanced, but I think that certainly there's truth to the idea that when powerful, wealthy corporatists meet together in a secret meeting, they're not talking about their golf scores, in my view. It's something at least to consider as important. And so again, I think that chapter 5 of Gary Allen's work at least has some merit, something to consider. All right, and in the next chapter we'll be talking about the Rockefellers and the Reds. Thank you for watching, and I hope the video was informative for you.